Circular progress bar, using which you can track your tasks, show off your completion percentages, or add cool visual elements to your website. This is what one of my subscribers requested, saying he couldn't find it easy. Well, how difficult is it to create such a progress bar? Let's find out using these tools. We have open VS Code on the left and the browser on the right. For the preparation, we have created our files. Inside our HTML, we have named our project and the other files attached to it. In CSS, we have some reset code. One color saved as variable. The body height is made as the height of the viewport. Its content is centralized, and the color from the variable is set as the color of the page. We come to our HTML. We create one wrapper. Inside this one is gonna be another div with a class name outer. Inside this one is gonna be another div with a class name inner, and finally inside this one is gonna be another div with an ID number. The wrapper is gonna be a container box. The outer and inner divs are gonna be these outer and inner borders. The number div is the central number. We come to CSS, we call our wrapper. It's gonna be a box of 400 pixels. Height is gonna be the same, 400 pixels. We're gonna make it flex, align its content in the center, justify center. Now we call the outer div, which is gonna be the outer border. Its width and height are gonna be the same of the wrapper, so we just copy it and paste it. We're gonna give a temporary border to see it visually, light blue. And to make it completely rounded, we're gonna give border radius of 50%. The same properties is gonna have the inner div, so we just copied one more time and pasted it and changed the name to inner. But this one is gonna be smaller. It's gonna be 340. Now to align the centers of the circles, we are gonna give the outer one a padding of 30 pixels. Let's call the number using its ID. It's gonna be bigger, 2.5 rem. It's gonna be bolder, 400 weight, and the color is gonna be light yellow. Let's give it a value to see it, 65%. And now to centralize the number, we're gonna give the inner a flex, which is the parting for the number. Display, flex, align item center, justify center. Now let's give the circles shadow effect. Box, shadow, -1 pixel horizontal value, -1 pixel vertical value. 5 pixel is gonna be blur radius, 0 pixel spread radius, RGBA 888, comma, and I'm gonna paste the second shadow. The same box shadow property is gonna have the inner div, but with only difference in the inset keyword, which makes sure that the shadow casts inwards instead of outwards. If we turn off the borders, now we see the result. It's time to create our progress bar, and to create it, we're gonna use SVG tag. We come to HTML, inside the wrapper div, after the outer div, we're gonna create one SVG tag. It's gonna accept properties like width and height, which are gonna be the same of the wrapper, 400 pixels. Inside it, we're gonna create one tag called circle. It's a self-closing tag, and it gives us a shape of a circle. It accepts properties like CX, CY, and R. CX defines the center point of the circle along the x-axis, and so does the CY, but along the y-axis. And R stands for the radius. Definitely the value for the CX and CY are gonna be the half of 400 pixels. The value for the radius is gonna be 185, but not 200, because we're not gonna use the circle but its border to create the progress bar. We come to CSS, we call our SVG tag, and we make its position absolute. Meanwhile, we have to make the position of the wrapper relative. Let's call the circle shape. If we give it a fill mode of white, we can see it very well, but we do not need this fill mode, so we set it to none. Instead, we're gonna use stroke. But first, we come to HTML. Inside the SVG, we create one more tag, which is called defs. Defs is kind of a placeholder inside which we can create graphical elements like shapes, gradients, filters, and etc. In our case, we're gonna create one element, which is a gradient, linear gradient. And to create the gradient colors, we're gonna use top tag, which is a self-closing tag, and it accepts properties like offset. For the first color is gonna be 0%, and stop color. And the first color is gonna be dark orange. The second color is gonna be yellow, and its offset is gonna be 100. We give our gradient an ID, and using this ID, we are gonna call it for the stroke here. Now we increase its width to 30 pixels, and we make it a dash array like this. I don't like these sharp corners. Let's make it rounded. Stroke, line cap, rounded. Now if we increase 100 to 1165, one dash covers the entire circle. And let's give it an offset, stroke offset, like 200. And before animating our progress bar, we change 200 to 1065, which offsets our progress bar completely. And now let's create one animation. We call it anim. It takes 1 second. Is in function, and forwards animation mode. Let's create the keyframes. Keyframes, anim, 100%, and the stroke dash offset is gonna be 407.75. This strange value is 35% of 1165, leaving us with 65%. That means our progress bar covers exactly 65% of the entire circle. And this is what we have built so far. The progress bar is animating, but the text is still static and it's not relating to the progress bar. To animate it as well, we jump to JS, we get our number, const number document, get an element by ID, number, and then we create one counter which equals 0 by default. Then we are gonna create one interval inside which we are gonna create increase counter by 1 each time, and then call the number its inner text property, which is gonna equal counter plus percentage sign on each interval call. We see that the text is not stopping at 65, and to stop it, we write if counter equals 65, then we clear the interval and then return like this. We see that the text is animating faster than the progress bar, and that's because we haven't provided the time for the interval yet. 1000 divided by 65, and this makes the text and the progress bar animate at the same time. It would be nicer if we could cover this piece of code we wrote inside a function. And then call the function up here like this. Finally, this is what we have built.